Hello, everybody. My name is James Ellis, and today we're going to be talking about data types. And the data types we're going to be looking at are going to be primitive, collections, and object. So, primitive data types are, in my mind, going to be integers, floats, boolean, and strings. Now, when I think about how I use that in my work environment, I'm thinking of a string as going to be like a vendor because I do a lot of buying of parts. So I'm thinking of Foxconn or of Compal or whoever it is I'm going to, Westron, whoever I'm buying these parts from. So that's my vendor. When I think of an integer, I'm thinking of how many parts am I buying? Because I never buy a half part. It has to be a whole number. So I'm going to buy 35 parts, 100 parts, 112 parts, whatever the case may be, but it's always a whole number. When I think of float's going to be like my dollar value because it has a decimal, $33.15 for this part, $12.18 for that part, $215.23 for that part. So whatever it is, that's my float number. And then when I think of a Boolean, I'm thinking of maybe I'm trying to do something where I'm trying to figure out which vendor, or should I look at other vendors? So my Boolean operators are like and, or, and not. So I may say that if price is X, look at this vendor and this vendor as options. So it depends on what I'm trying to build and how I'm trying to use that data within any type of program I'm writing. So that's primitive. Now I'm going to move over to collections. Collections are like list, arrays, dictionaries, and tables. So when I think of list, I'm thinking of creating a list like I'm going to have LCDs, but LCDs may have 20 different part numbers that it can be. So when I print LCDs, I can see all 20 part numbers. Or if I have hard drives, I may have 5 different hard drives part numbers that I have. So when I print the list of hard drives, I get those part numbers of 5 possible part numbers. So I can use a list in that kind of way, kind of just putting all the possible part numbers, because the list allows me to create strings of just characters together that I can put together and say, hey, this is what the list is. And it doesn't really say I have to have just integers or whatever the case. I can have just a mixed set of data inside there. Now, when or characters, I mean. Now, when I think of arrays are different. Array says I have to be of integers only inside there, or floats only inside there, or something like that. So when I think of that, I'm thinking I would use arrays in my environment as if I was going to put like the quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and I'm putting down this is what I spent each quarter, and I want to kind of look for the year. What is my average spend or medium mode, and if I want to pull that kind of data together. Or I can turn around and simply say, if I'm looking at the month, this is what everything that I bought over the month. And like I say, give me the average cost of what did I spend average for that. Like if I'm picking on LCDs, I spent LCDs, and these are all the possible dollar values I spent for all the parts. My average part cost was X for an LCD. So I can look at it that way. When I think of dictionary is different. So when I'm thinking of dictionary, I'm thinking of something like I'm going to turn around. I'm going to say I'm going to have an LCD. I'm going to match it up to an average cost. So there's always an average cost. So I always got like an average cost. And like I say, if you go to this table, you can see motherboards, you can see hard drives, you can see any type of commodity, because there's so many commodities in the computer that you can see inside there. You can see this is the average cost when you're trying to put something together and say, what is my average cost that I've got? Well, this I guess table will kind of just give you that answer, and you can just use that for some simple financial arithmetics or stuff, or different things you need to do when you're trying to average out some sort of math that you're trying to do. So I could see tables or something like that being used in that manner. I'm sorry, list used in that manner. Tables, on the other hand, are different. They're more. It's more of just creating I guess you can say it's like an Excel sheet when you think about it, and you're going to have your one column. It's going to have, in my mind, I would put something like, I would say, here are all the LCDs, LCD, motherboard, hard drive, whatever. But over here, I'm going to list different types of vendors in my columns. I'm going to have Westron. I'm going to have Maxtor. I'm going to have Western Digital. I'm going to have into whatever it is that I'm trying to put inside there, that is my different vendors, is what I'm going to list inside there. And when you go to that one piece, you look at hard drives, you're going to see hard drive vendors. When you go in there, you see motherboards, you can see motherboard vendors. When you look at processors, you can see processor vendors. And that way, that's just a list, but I'm going to format that and program that to where I can print out that list, and someone can just look at that and say, okay, I see this is the commodity, and these are the possible companies that we do business with for that commodity in that list. So that's collections. When I turn around, I take a look at objects. Objects is where I'm thinking about some of the things we do in my business when I'm dealing with finance. So objects in my mind is functions and classes. So when I think of functions, functions are like the print function we already have in Python. It does a function, it prints, but we can create our own functions. So in my world, I would create a function inside there that would turn around and say divide by 1,000 for accounting and divide by 1,000,000 for finance. And the reason for that is because in my world, the operational business will always look at the whole number. We're always interested in that whole number. So if I'm looking at $1,358,000 and four, sorry, let me repeat that: $1,358,412. I'm looking at the whole number. But when I talk to accounting only wants to look at $1,358,000. They don't care about the 412. So when I report it to them, I got to report it differently. When I report it to finance, finance is even more narrow. They're down to where all they care about when they look at the whole number is the $1.4 million because they just rounded up that $1,385,000 to 1.4. So when I'm building reports out that I'm reporting out to these different functions, I would create a function, build it into a class, and then call the class that I want, which is basically object oriented, and just simply say, when I pass this through for accounting, I'm going to push for accounting. When I pass it through finance, I'm going to divide by 1,000,000 for finance and 1,000 for accounting, and that way it just basically creates my report, and it just calls this function, so I can make sure report is designed in a manner that's designed for that business unit. That's how I would use the class in a business environment. That's what I have. Thank you.